And now, your official TigerBait postgame show with Mike Scarborough and Preston Guy starts now.
Well, that was a nasty affair in Tiger Stadium tonight. LSU absolutely demolished, humiliated, embarrassed. One of the worst defeats that I've seen in my career covering LSU. There's been some. There was certainly some in the 90s. Brian was in the press box along with Preston going through the media guide and looking up some of the worst defeats. This one was absolutely embarrassing. For the second time in a row this football season, LSU was in the primetime slot on ABC and absolutely laid an egg and embarrassed themselves. And, I think that overweight Tiger that the governor rolled out there, the only thing that would have been more fitting would have been if the Tiger wouldn't have been emaciated or anorexic, because it would have fit this LSU football team. There are a ton of problems with this LSU program. And, there's a difference between team and program. And I think when you look across the board and you go position by position group, you look at the strength and conditioning program. What these type of losses show you is just how far away you are as a program. And I hate to break it to you, but the dirty little secret is that this LSU football team isn't going to be any better next year. And they've got a long way to go. They've got so much work to do. Now, this recruiting class, obviously, for the class of 25 is fantastic. You had an unbelievable group of recruiting visitors on campus today, and you had that in many sports. Men's and women's basketball had fantastic recruits on campus as well. But those guys are all going to be freshmen next year. And so when you look about if you go line by line, what you're going to lose, how you performed against the upper echelon teams in the league, the bowl that you're projected at, now you're 9-3. Do you finish 8-4? Do you finish 7-5? I'm joking around on Twitter with Duke's mayonnaise bowl and Pop-Tart bowl, but those are really the bowl games that you're going to now.
Say, are you really joking?
No, I'm not joking. I'm absolutely serious.
Kind of serious, right?
Yeah. So now you broke my train of thought.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was on a roll. Okay. Go ahead, Preston. Give us your thoughts.
I mean, this is one of those losses. I like in losses like this, start with the positives, right? And just get them out of the way. So we're not.
And now your screen is frozen, which matches the game tonight.
Am I still frozen, Mike?
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Anyways, I like to try to start with, but I'm at a loss for positives. What are your positives? You hit a 45-yard run to begin the game, and then you didn't do diddly squat for this entire game. So, ugly loss, one of those losses you should be embarrassed as a program. You should not accept this kind of loss. And frankly, as a fan base, you should be utterly disappointed and embarrassed and want things to change in a big kind of way. So we'll discuss your thoughts and where LSU goes from here, because I'll tell you where LSU's not going. LSU will not be going to the college football playoff, which the program, that should be the goal each and every year. You should never miss the program, and now you're going to go to an embarrassing bowl game where your coach is going to get bathed in mayonnaise or whatever, while the real programs are competing for a championship, and that will be pie in your face in a way that has not previously existed, because it used to be, only 4 teams are in the playoffs and everybody else has to play a crappy bowl game that nobody cares about, and it is what it is. Well, now 12 teams will be in the playoffs, and those will be the 12 teams people care about, and those bowl games will be even worse. So enjoy it.
All right, we'll see if you can play with your settings on that Radio Shack computer so we can actually see you. Yep. All right, let me dive in some of these, and I'm sure we're going to get Notre Dame fans in here. And you know what? They have every right to troll LSU fans and a lot of people as well. All right, let's see. Wilk, what an absolute embarrass. Well, that happened. I I don't think BK is going to make it to 2026. He's going to make it to 2026. I think here's the deal. LSU is look, he's not going anywhere for quite some time. He's got a fantastic 25 recruiting class. He needs to hold on to him. Obviously, Bryce Underwood, a lot of overtures with Michigan. He's on campus, and I think they're going to get that right with him before he leaves. You had DeCory and Moore on campus today. They've got to throw a ton of money at him because that wide receiver room, I do not like at all going forward. You lose Kyron Lacey, and everybody else is 5'8", and everybody else behind them, in my mind, are busts. So that whole wide receiver room needs to be rebuilt. Offensive line, I think the offensive line kind of shows you why most of them have not come out for interviews most of this season. You want to talk about an overrated group, and look, we're just weeks away from the end of this thing, and as a coaching staff, and Brian Kelly's the head coach, he's going to need to evaluate everything. You need to evaluate coaches, and I'm not saying anything about the defensive coaches. But I think you put a lot of those coaches on the offensive side of the ball under the microscope, and you certainly put the strength and conditioning coach on the microscope. I've seen 2 weeks in a row where teams that had transfer portal issues and had kids get in the portal because of new coaches and had to fill a spot with a bunch of transfers, just like LSU, absolutely manhandle LSU. And I don't know if they're doing jazzercise. I know they're doing a lot of this newfound rubber band stuff. Let's get back to Olympic lifting, clean and jerks. There's a reason why Texas A&M looked the way they did against LSU in the second half. And, whether you thought Moffitt got long in the tooth, that's the Tommy Moffitt effect that you're seeing there. And at times you look at this LSU team and you're wondering if they're doing Jane Fonda tapes, old VHS tapes in the back room over there.
And I remember telling people a few years back about this strength and conditioning program. Everybody wanted immediate dividends. Well, is it working? Is it working? What's going on? And it was like, well, I told people, it's like, it's been a year. To truly tell the progress of a strength and conditioning program, it takes years to see what happens to your freshmen when
Preston,
you bring them in.
You and I have argued about that. That's not true. It does not take.
Well, it obviously is true because now we're seeing it tonight, and those guys 3 years in were complaining about rubber bands and stuff. What
are you talking about at Texas A&M, Preston?
What do you mean?
Moffitt's been there less than a year,
right? But I'm talking about LSU. Okay, and we were judging LSU. Everybody wanted to kind of declare victory in that department after a year. And it's like, well, let's see how these players develop. And I think we're 3 years in and we're not getting quite the results that you were wanting to see out of that.
I will say this. You're only going to be as good as what you're able to work with as a strength and conditioning coach. And without a doubt, LSU's missing a lot of pieces. Savion Jones, he makes a step forward. He makes a step back. He had a really bad game night, and of course we need to watch this film. We know that we know that Bo Davis and those guys are working with what they've got with, BK said that in the post game, he's going to say we are who we are. He does that every time. And what he's basically telling you, it's the old Gene Hackman and Hoosiers. This is your team. There's no Jimmy Chitwood that's coming out of the stands to help you go to the state championship game. And so, they've got so much work to do. And like I said at the opening, if you think that this team, and by the way, I was 9-3, 8-4. Preston was 9-3. Most people were 9-3. There was a couple of 10-2s out there. I think they're probably going to finish at 8-4. That's my guess.
Oh,
I think
so
I have a hard time. Huh?
Vandy?
Preston, there's no gimmies here.
Well, I'm just asking you who the fourth is. Vandy, the spread is.
What I've seen out of this LSU football team, Preston, I don't think that they're a lock to win the next 3 football games. I think they're more likely to lose one of them.
Well, that's what I'm asking you who the one is.
Yeah, I mean, if their quarterback for Florida's healthy, you're in for a fight at Florida. So, man, the play calling. Caden Durham gets you down in the red zone. Here comes number 18 to kill a drive. I mean, I hate singling out players. He's a walk-on, and everybody knows the story. But time after time, Josh Williams is a drive killer. It makes no sense to me.
The thing is Josh Williams is not someone you don't want on your roster. You don't want to not use him. What are you doing situationally? Why is that guy your goal line back? Twice on the goal line.
Every week he is.
What has he shown to LSU ranks 62nd in the country in red zone efficiency? I think you have to throw a lot of criticism at Frank Wilson for the usage there, and frankly, Joe Sloan too, because I mean, both of those guys need to work out.
Where's Caleb
Who's
Jackson?
your back in that situation?
Where's Caleb Jackson?
He didn't play till the very end.
Why not bring Caleb Jackson as a fullback?
I mean, do they?
I'm told they may have worked on that. You're not lining up against Alabama like that and just going to have your way with them. And Nussmeier, boy, he looks like a first-year starter. And, Brian and Lazar and I were talking about it early on, not early on, in the second half or at the end of the game, mid-fourth quarter. I said, let me ask you something, Brian. If LSU had a viable second-string quarterback, would you have yanked Nussmeier by now? And he says, no, not one that doesn't have any experience. Man, I think if you had a legit second-string quarterback that maybe Nussmeier barely beat out, I think you would have yanked him in the second half of these last two football games.
It's possible, especially one that might fit the scheme a little bit better. Because I think they really want a guy who can run an RPO and take it and run.
Jacob Hayden, I'm never the type of fan that points in your face followed by a ha ha ha. But as a Notre Dame fan, I'm genuinely curious of initial feelings of BK hiring compared to the feeling now. Look, you don't pay $100 million for a football coach to go 9-3, 8-4. Frankly, that's Les Miles. That's in this day and age, 9-3 is not playoffs. It's not playoffs when it goes to 14 teams. That's not good enough. And we can have the debate what's realistic at LSU in this day and age. The expanded SEC, 2 out of 4 years, 3 out of 5 years in the playoffs. What is realistic? Because I can tell you right now, they're not in it this year, as you know, with the loss tonight, and they're not going to be in it next year. I just don't see it.
Let me say, do you think it's realistic?
Not with everything they're losing, and all of a sudden you're going to Alabama, you're going to Ole Miss, you're opening at Clemson. This man can't win an opener.
Is it fair to say LSU should on average be making the playoffs? That should be your average year. I mean, every year you go 9-3 and miss it, you should offset that with a year where you're like 11-1 or something really good and you have a high seed. Is that not a fair bar for LSU?
I think at LSU over a 5-year period, 3 out of 5 years you should be in the playoffs.
So overall, my assessment on BK is it's
and in one of those 5 years, you're a national championship contender.
It has been a plateau. Looks like another 9-3-ish type season. Maybe you add a cheap bowl win and you get to 10-3 again, and whatever. Okay, or maybe you don't. We'll see. But you haven't met the mark this year. The first 2 years, probably you overachieved a little bit. Probably give a lot of credit to pulling Jaden Daniels in those first 2 years. And it's really not. It was really good at first, the rebuild job he did, and it just hasn't taken that step forward. My thing is that 9-3 as a floor, I think, is an acceptable floor, but you need to eventually break through to that floor. You can't just have 9-3 be the standard. And
9-4, but this guy right now, it looks like a long line of 9-3s.
And
I'm sorry, Preston, going to the bowl game in this day and age with the expanded playoffs. If you're not there and you're going to a Pop-Tart Bowl
Oh yeah.
or a tax slayer,
Hey,
nobody
Mike.
gives a shit.
Hey, guess what? They're all the
Nobody
Pop-Tart
gives a
Bowl
shit.
now. There's no such thing as a non-Pop-Tart bowl anymore.
Who's buying tickets for a Duke's Mayo Bowl?
Who's buying tickets for any bowl? They're all a mayonnaise bowl. They're all the Circle K bowl. Okay.
Preston,
if you're not in the playoffs, no one cares. There's no one saying, "Oh, we made the Citrus Bowl though. We're in the Citrus Bowl." They all suck.
Preston, with a 4-team playoff, no one gave a crap. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
I know.
It's
I know.
going to be even worse.
Worse.
Yeah. It's women's basketball season, folks.
Ooh. Yeah, you're right.
All right, let's see. Nuss is not the problem. Carmen Allen, how jubilant. Mike, agree. Nuss 100% would have been pulled. And look, man, I think there's growing pains. What do we say all preseason? Does Nussmeier have a 2018 that was like Burrows? Does he have a 2022 that was like Daniels? Where you see the light there. But man, he's going to need a whole new wide receiver core. I mean, what's behind Mason Taylor when he goes pro? I mean, we have not seen. Do you think the tight end spot's looking solid?
I mean, the guys there.
Green has not been utilized. And where's Pimpton been since the Nicholls State game?
Yeah. And then Markway. I mean, I think they've got a good tight end room. I'm not that's not even in my top handful of concerns. Offensive line would probably be my biggest concern for next year.
There's a whole lot of concerns next year.
Look, man, I mean, we got to be real honest about Nussmeier. I think we spent a lot of this year singing praises to him, and now it's time to really highlight in on his 3 biggest games of the year: Ole Miss, Alabama, and Texas A&M, where he's completed 51% of his passes for 981 yards. That's about 333 a game, a little under that. 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a fumble tonight, by the way. So at least 8 turnovers. I didn't look at his fumbles, but that is mediocre, folks. That is just not cutting it. And that's what NFL scouts are going to look at. That's what you should judge your quarterback on, is by his big games. And right now it looks like a lot of pat stuff, fluffing your stats against weaker opponents. And when the big opponents come to town, Nussmeier just is not cutting it. So I think some criticism needs to go his way.
Carmen Allen, Mike, I asked you this after Arkansas. Are we 2 years away from where we need to be? Absolutely. I've said LSU was 2 years away before Arkansas. 2026 is the year. You need a class of 25. You need a class in 26 just as good as 25. And in between, you've got to fill some needs with the portal. If you've got to evaluate this position coach or that one, strength and conditioning, whatever it may be, you got to get it done. But here's the thing. You open up with a loss to Clemson next year and it starts all over again.
Speaking of Clemson, can I add a little silver lining here?
It's going to be a lot of pain where people are just going to check out. So because you're not making any moves.
For the Fire BK crowd, I want to throw a little perspective here, because Dabo Swinney at Clemson, he started 27-16 in his first 3 seasons, and Brian Kelly is now 26-10 at LSU's coach. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than 3 years to get your program up and building. Sometimes guys get it. Kirby Smart started his first 3 seasons 32-10.
Unless Miles gave Dabo Swinney a nice shot in the arm in that Chick-fil-A bowl. Gave him that bowl game.
Well, I think
that was a nice springboard to the Swinney.
I don't think that would have been his first 3 seasons, but yeah, I get what you're saying. That was definitely what happened to his program since that game. It was great, but sometimes it takes coaches a little while to really get things rocking and rolling. You need some time to build it. I think at LSU, the coach's 3rd year has been magical for them, for the last 3 coaches. And that's just not universally the case.
Yeah, but now this is year 3, Preston, and we're talking about how he's 2 years away.
Yeah, no, that's problematic. Don't get me wrong. If that comes to fruition, I think it's just, man, I think off seasons are just too wild to sit here and say what next year is going to look like. You got portal. You got guys going in and out. I mean, what are we projecting next season if Nussmeier hits the portal and some hotshot quarterback comes in? I mean, I'm not saying that happens, or I think it will. I'm just saying, like, crazy crap happens. I think 2 years away is way too premature to discuss.
You're going to drive me crazy tonight.
I mean,
Preston, all we have to do is go line by line on the roster, dude.
Do it, but that roster could be completely different a year from now.
It's not going to be. They're not going for a 15 transfer portal kids in this offseason.
Yeah.
Bill Jenkins, Kelly is too lazy. He does play a lot of golf. Joe Marciano, Brian Kelly has coached for 30 years. Those guys were first-time coaches. Jared Addison, it pisses me off that we had a good schedule. UGA, Miami lost. We were set up to rock up the rankings, and we didn't show up for the last 6 quarters. Wasted season. It's look, man, everything is here for you. The facilities, the NIL money. I know Austin Thomas has got a nice little piggy bank for NIL, and it's upper echelon of college football. And but I can tell you, my phone was burning up tonight from folks who are NIL people that spend money, and they're not happy. You shit the bed like this one too many times, you're going to have problems down the line. Like I said earlier, nobody wants to go to a Pop-Tart Bowl. William Kiley, stop Brian Kelly is Les Miles and Jimbo'd out the natty. It doesn't take that long in an era portal if you do it right. Yeah, William, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it right now. Carvis, there are 2 weeks to prepare, and we saw the same issues. GB might be speaking facts. Preston speaks hope.
Look, man, if you think me saying it's just too early to say whatever is just giving you hope, I'm not telling you it will be good or great. I'm just telling you it's too early to tell. And
Preston, we know what's coming back on that offensive line. You know, we know what the wide receiver room looks like. You're going to lose your top tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about from an offense who's looked like crap the last 2 games.
And, I've seen
it's nice opponents.
Wild effing postseasons, just every postseason. I'm just telling you it's too early.
Look, you need a Decorian. You need to flip a Decorian more.
Yeah, you get him on board, and all of a sudden it looks real different.
And you got to go on the portal and get 2 guys like Malik Neighbors to go along with him, because you don't have that in the program coming back.
For you to sit here and say you know exactly what this roster is going to look like in 12 months, that's
Preston.
Preston,
I'm not telling you that.
It's too early. This is my point. That's all I'm telling you. Too early to say
who's the number
how
one
many
wide
years
receiver
away you are.
Preston, who is the number 1 wide receiver on the team next year?
That's my point. You just don't even know. You have no idea.
Is he there right now?
What if Decorian Moore flips? What if the NIL boosters you're pissed off at or get him and he's coming in? Could Decorian Moore fight for that?
I'm talking about that's on the roster right now. Who's the number 1 guy
for next year? CJ Daniels?
Come on, man. That's your number 1 guy? He's a 4th guy any other year at LSU. That's not good enough.
I'm just telling you, it's a crazy era we're in, and it's too early. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to sit here and say
Aaron Anderson at
what that
5'8"
roster
is
looks
not your
like
number
next
1
year,
guy, and I
you're
love
a damn liar. Nobody knows exactly what your roster is going to look like. I'm just telling you. I'm not here to pump sunshine. I'm just telling you.
I'm not saying you're pumping sunshine, Preston, but do you think they're going to go get 2 Malik Neighbor types in the transfer portal?
Hey,
if there's even one that shows up there, they're just going to, hey, everybody, LSU needs a guy like Malik Neighbors, so y'all go on LSU, take what you want. We're not going to bid on them.
I mean, you've gotten 2 Heisman winners out of the portal with this program. We've seen in the last 5 years. I'm just saying crazy stuff happens.
Yeah, well, we knew last year they needed a defensive tackle in the portal, a really good one, and they didn't get diddly squat.
They didn't do it. That's right.
Yep. Carvis, Aaron Anderson can be your number. Carvis, Aaron Anderson is a very good wide receiver. I love Aaron Anderson. You guys know I was pumping him up since Carr, but at 5'8", he's your inside slot guy who typically at LSU, if you go in the last 20 years and you look at all the great wide receivers that have come, he's like your third guy. My point is, when you go from Jamar Chase to Jefferson to Malik Neighbors and Kyron Lacy, who's kind of disappeared a bit, there's not even a Kyron Lacy coming back on this roster. And anybody like a Shelton Sampson, who's been here now in the program for 2.5 years, and they haven't given you anything, that tells you something. So, my point is that Aaron Anderson is not he's not in the mold of what you're used to seeing in an Odell Beckham, a Chase, a Malik Neighbors, a Kyron Lacy. He's a 5'8" inside slot guy.
He's a serviceable weapon when used properly. That's my thought on Aaron Anderson. Is he a bona fide first-round wide receiver? Come on. Used but situationally, he's good.
He's fantastic. He needs to get more touches, but he's not a number one wide receiver in a program like LSU. GB, yep, Mike loves him, but he is a slot. He's dangerous, but not one. Chase, Jefferson, and Neighbors are game chambers. Yep, he is a 5-star for a reason, but that doesn't make him your 6'2" threat receiver that's going to catch it balls over his shoulder in the back of the end zone for touchdowns. He's the guy that you want to get on a quick slant and get him in space, and him plant his foot and make a linebacker look like a fool.
Yeah, I guess what's so upsetting about this receiving core, there's certainly a lot of young guys, but typically the young guys who are about to emerge and do something special. Think about Odell Beckham as a freshman in 2011. Remember the flashes we saw? Remember 3rd and a mile at West Virginia, Odell Beckham? Remember Jamar Chase as a freshman in 2018 and how many times the 1 yard line, he got the ball right to the 1 yard line just for who was the running back? Brosette, just to punch it in 1 yard out. Okay. Both those guys showed flashes. Even Justin Jefferson, he showed more than a flash as a sophomore. When you're knocking on the door of doing something spectacular as a wide receiver, you show flashes of greatness. It's just not all put together. The puzzle as pieces all scattered. Okay. What flashes have you seen to show that one of these young guys is about to bust off and do something great? I think that is where your concern it should come in.
Yeah. Carvis Durr, man, I'm not picking on Aaron Anderson at all. It's in my mind, he is a starting wide receiver for LSU, but he's not an outside Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase type. He's 5'8". He's an inside slot guy. I'm not saying that he can't have a long NFL career either, because I think he's a fantastic wide receiver. He's just not that 6'2" guy that you got to have. All right. Let's pay some bills, folks. If you're enjoying the show as much as you can, please hit that like button for us. And let's hear from Kenny Haines.
Kenny Haines is a proud 1989 graduate of LSU Law School with a passion for justice. Kenny stands out as the only lawyer in the state, board certified in both appellate practice and family law. Drawing from 34 years of trial experience, Kenny has navigated the most complex aspects of real people's lives. If you need help in Northwest Louisiana with a family issue, legal issue, or a highly skilled trial attorney, call Kenny 318-222-2100.
Of course, Kenny is the unofficial lawyer of TigerBait.com, and he reserves the right to think most clearly for a paying client. Here we go.
Drive-in style and luxury with a new Genesis from Genesis of Lafayette. Buy a 2023 Genesis G70 3.3T Sport Prestige Executive Demo and pay only $39,870. Buy a new 2025 GB70 and take $2,000 off the MSRP with value owner, competitive owner incentive, Plus, finance for 2.99% APR for 60 months or 3.99% APR for 72 months. Don't forget to start your shopping online by visiting genesisoflafayette.com.
Absolutely. Head over to Genesis of Lafayette. Best buying experience for a new luxury SUV. Call them, set up your test drive, 877-856-2961. Tell them TigerBait sent you. Jaron Guidry, sales manager, Blake Mesh. In fact, both those guys were texting me. They were not happy LSU fans tonight, and big LSU fans over Genesis of Lafayette.
Mike,
you see any comments you want to put up, Preston?
No, but I have two questions I want to pose before we dive too deep into those. Okay, and I think they're both good questions adjacent to the future conversation we've been having here. Number one, Mike, if you had to guess how many players ranked in the top 5 of their position were at LSU today, how many would you guess?
Repeat the question.
How many top 5 players, recruits, were on the sidelines for LSU? So, like, the 5th rated quarterback in the country or above.
Oh, there was
right?
I don't know what the number is, but it was a who's who tonight.
Yeah, just spit out. I'll tell you, it was 15. I counted 15 players rated at the top 5 of their position. It was a smorgasbord of recruits out there. My question to you is, in your experience, when you have a plethora of talent on campus like this, which you said this is kind of typical for an LSU Alabama game, right? What's the true reception and feedback of just an annihilation on the field? A lot of fans almost feel like you don't want those recruits to see that.
Man, when you get embarrassed by A&M in the second half and you do it at home again, after with 2 weeks to prepare, I mean, typically recruits don't care because you're selling them on playing time, your need for them. You know, you're able to say, look, man, see why we need you so bad. And depending on their position, you're able to point to it. See how you can come in and compete for a starting job, right? You're able to sell that. But at the same time, you know, they want to say, hey, man, why are you struggling? How come this guy hadn't developed? You know, you don't want to have too many of these where they start questioning you and your staff. I'm not saying that that's happening, but I mean, look, this Alabama team that Kalen DeBoer's coaching is not what we're used to seeing out of Alabama in the last 15 years. But they came in LSU, came into Baton Rouge in a night game and made mincemeat of LSU and embarrassed the Tigers in front of a national audience like nobody's business. So, you know, that's tough to rebound from. But I'll go back to what I'm saying earlier. When you want to bring up the 25 class, you know, you can go line by line and say, okay, which one of these guys, how many of these guys, and a lot of them will be midterm enrollees, can you figure into the 2 deep, who can come in and make an impact right away? I mean, look, Garrett Nussmeier, he'll be back, right? He's going to be a senior.
Unless he hits the portal.
I mean, I'm sure there's some people who want to say Bryce Underwood is going to come in and beat him out. I'm not saying that. Harlem Berry can play wide receiver and running back. You get excited about him and Lindsey. But then you're also thinking, well, do we go too overboard about those 2 guys when we've seen how difficult it is for true freshmen to get in the rotation under Frank Wilson?
Well,
the wide receiver group, you know, you got the kid at Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. I think he might flip. He's not going to be a part of this class.
Meadows,
more than likely. Yeah. Notre Dame's, you know, looking to flip him and others. And he's not exactly lit it up his senior year. And the 2 you've got from Louisiana, I think are going to need time. I don't see either one of those guys coming in and being starters right away. So,
I mean, you have to go to the portal for wide receiver, right?
Yeah, you have to go to the portal and get at least 2. And you need to flip a guy like DeCorian Moore.
Yeah. I think that's the only way you can feel good about your receivers next year. It's the only way.
And then you have Aaron Anderson come back, you know,
sure.
and a few others.
And CJ Daniels.
Kyle Parker off of injury.
Sure. But I think that you need improvement from your receiving core this year, not just a year of getting better with veteran guys and then, you know, a freshman on the bench. I think you need to take some steps forward.
Yeah, GB says that Frank Will needs to take some heat and Hankton. It's about, and here's the thing, you know, it's not like Louisiana's put out some receivers and Hankton hadn't signed them, but since Hankton's been here, look at who his receivers are and who recruited them. They haven't been his guys. Who are his guys?
Yeah, that's a good point. Look, I don't think that there's a person affiliated with the program who doesn't need heat. When you get beat 42-13, I mean, we're talking about outside of a COVID year, I believe that's the biggest loss in 100 years since 1925 to Alabama, right? Everybody should be embarrassed. Head coach, coordinators, assistants, analysts, players, scout team. Athletic administration, the stadium crew should be embarrassed for lighting off fireworks when you score a touchdown with 17 seconds left to make it 42-13. The stadium crew should be embarrassed. Okay,
William Colley, Decorian is not flipping after that laugh on. They maybe had a shot if they won, but after that, combined with the Oregon season, no shot. William, it's all about NIL money, and I'm told LSU is going to put together, before he left town, a very lucrative offer. We'll see.
I think what he's saying applies in 2018 recruiting. I think, yeah, absolutely. But in this world, man, I mean, that's why I can't tell anybody that Bryce Underwood's a done deal for LSU, because it's like money's always there. NIL is always there. Anything could happen nowadays. There's no such thing as a lock in recruiting anymore.
We can also put to bed that we probably should have done it weeks ago, that this is one of the nation's best offensive lines. When you want to talk about storylines for the 2024 season, there's no bigger storyline than what a disappointment this LSU offensive line is.
No, I mean, bar none. And by the way, they gave up sacks tonight, which I saw some stat about them not giving up sacks before this game. But let's see, how many sacks did we have tonight? Was it two? 2 sacks they gave up, and one of them was a strip sack fumble where not Lloyd Cushenberry. Who am I thinking of? It's DJ Chester. There's a blitzing linebacker coming up the A gap. He's not blocking anybody. He doesn't look, and he just. Next thing you know, Nussmeier's fumble. That fumble, look, part of me really wants to know how this game looks if instead of them fumbling.
Everybody wanted to pin that one on DJ Chester, by the way.
What's that?
Everybody wanted to pin that fumble by Nussmeier on Chester.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm pinning it on him. Should I not pin it on him?
No, you also pin it on Nussmeier for not having 2 hands on the football.
Sure. But you look, an unimpeded blocker up the A gap when you have a center who's not blocking anybody, that's pretty bad. Okay, that's like 90% of the blame goes to him. And sure, Nussmeier have some better ball security. Come on, man.
By the way, what is the interception total now for Garrett Nussmeier?
11. Mike, I just want to say how disappointed I was.
12 in the preseason.
At how conservative and positive you were thinking that he would only throw 12 interceptions. I mean, you were sunshine bumping.
You said he throws 6.
I said 6. I did the math on his previous 250 throws. And I said, this is his interception rate. I think he'll throw 6, 7,
Jess
something
Young
like that.
has something that I'm a big believer in. And I've talked about this all week. You can't win with a pocket quarterback in college anymore. You got to have a dual threat. I absolutely believe with that. I don't want to see pocket passers recruited to LSU anymore.
Can we add on that the statue quarterback, I think, is dead in college football. Mettenbergers of the world, you can't do it anymore. I think you need a guy who can throw in the pocket. I still think the ability to throw from the pocket is very important, but you need a guy who can move around and kind of improvise.
Did you see that run by Nussmeier tonight?
Well, he had 2 ones. You talking about
how timid he was on that run?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That one. Yeah. No, that was bad.
That was an embarrassing run by Nussmeier.
I think it was first down and he ran for 6 yards, and it's like he could have fought for a first down and he didn't. But later in the game, he clearly got an ass chewing because you were taking care of your camera equipment and missed that run. I think
by the way, Nussmeier has ability to run. I'm telling you, I don't know if he can get in the 4.6s, but he's at least a 4.7 guy. Yeah. And Burrow was a 4.9 guy. Nussmeier has wheels.
They have tracked him going north of 21 miles an hour at practice with the little chest things. But anyways, he fought for his life on an important run for 13 yards to open up. I think it was on that drive where he ended up throwing an interception. But, good on him. I'm sure he got chewed out. But here's the deal, man. LSU had two very important drives, back-to-back drives. One where you get the ball back with a chance to tie it before halftime. Fumble. That's on Nussmeier. Okay. And then the next drive, you open up half down 21-6. You get a chance to go score and make it a one-score game. Interception on the 4-yard line. You can't do that in big games, man. You cannot have back-to-back turnovers in a game where they're knocking on the door of a blowout. And they didn't knock. They busted through after that.
Omaha 23, if you guys are worried about pinning blame, we are in more trouble than I'm not worried about. I'm letting it fly tonight, as you can tell.
I mean, you pin blame on everybody for a loss like this. There's not a person in the building who doesn't deserve to be blamed. Who out of this game are you sitting there and you're like, no, that wasn't on him. He did his part. There's no one. You lost as a team 42-13.
I would like to get an old school strength and conditioning coach to kind of spy on what's being done over there in that weight room to see how out of hand it's gotten. I've got questions about the type of lifts they do. I mean, I don't know. I've seen one too many times where these guys, where LSU's got the size and the athleticism, but I don't. Again, I kind of say it jokingly that they're doing jazzercise and Jane Fonda tapes. I do know they're doing a lot of band work and they're doing a lot of the new stuff, and they've got all the electronic equipment. And but sometimes you just got to get in that power rack and do the stuff that Gail Hatch taught Tommy Moffitt, and that whole Gail Hatch strength and conditioning coach tree that Tommy Moffitt was a part of, and then and a dozen others across the country. Sometimes you got to get back to that. And I've talked to some former players and two of them tonight, and down on the field at the end of the game, and they agree. Yeah, band work, GB. That's using the you got the 20-pound bands, the 50-pound bands, and I mean, there's some legit stuff you can do with that, but I'm wondering if they're not doing too much of that kind of stuff. Yeah, power cleans, clean and jerks. Get back to the Olympic lifting stuff.
It would be nice if your guys like Emory Jones and Will Campbell, 3 years in the program, if they were maulers. I'd say that their ability to run block, which is a lot of that squat, core strength type stuff, hasn't progressed the way we would like to after 3 years.
Yep. D. Scott Riggs, as we say in the gym, the bar don't lie. And look, these guys, they've got some strong guys on this team. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you see the videos. They put them out in the off season. But how much are they maintaining that during the season? What do the numbers look like? The progress.
Well, I don't think that they've really. I mean, they didn't run the ball well against USC either. This has been a full season of the same result with them.
The Mighty Tim, I say if BK goes 9-3 next year with a season opening loss, Alabama loss, and a second conference loss, he's shown he won't improve, but it's 5 seasons or 10 seasons. Kelly will only go 9-3 regular season. To me, if he were to win 10 games regular season next year, he will be, in my mind, SEC Coach of the Year with the way the schedule flips. Of course, we don't know. Does LSU get Texas next year? I mean, we don't know what the SEC slates, who's rotating in, do we? That's not out yet.
Right.
The non-conference and your permanents, you're going to go to Ole Miss and you're going to go to Alabama.
Okay, they do have the SEC schedule put out, but they just don't have the dates yet. Arkansas, Florida, South Carolina, Texas A&M, Alabama, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. Wait, am I tripping here? That's 2025. I'm reading. Looks like the same opponents.
Yeah.
That's
But
LSUsports.net.
I thought there was one that would be different. There you go, Preston.
Hey, thanks for joining our show tonight, Brian. I appreciate you joining us. You guys from Notre Dame have really been great.
Just so you know, Brian, I told Preston on the way home, if the Notre Dame fans come in and want to rip, we're letting them.
Let them rip. Have at it, man. Drop us a like, though, while you're here, please. I would appreciate a like to support our channel. I appreciate all our Notre Dame fans joining us.
Lance Evangelister, how does Nuss year compare to Burrow 2018? Maybe he makes the leap next year. Look, I Burrow had his things in 20, but man, not like this. Maybe I've got early dementia, but I don't recall anything that was as aggravating as this.
Burrow also didn't have time in the program. He transferred in that summer, and it took Burrow a long time to complete 50% of his passes, but you saw him get cooking toward the end of the year where he clearly was building chemistry. Yeah, but it was very clear that was a player who arrived like 4 weeks before and took over a team.
But he didn't have the turnover issues.
No, he had 5 interceptions. He went 16 and 5 touchdowns to interceptions. Yep. So Nussmeier's going to have more yards, higher completion, more touchdowns. But Nuss is probably on pace to have 15 or 16 turnovers, and that's something Nuss has to work a ton on. I mean, a ton on. The turnovers have been really bad.
Yep. Here we go. Let's see. All right, everybody. All TigerBait live shows are probably brought to you by this football season by Stroubes Seafood and Steaks, 107 3rd Street, downtown Baton Rouge. Stroubes prides itself on providing a 5-star dining experience for a reasonable price, locally owned, ownership right there in the building. Take a high level of pride in the food and service you're just not going to get from any chain or corporate establishment. Stroubes features a full menu of specialty meats, including USDA prime black Angus and 100% certified Wagyu New York strip. And for those looking for something beyond red meat, they offer items such as a dry-aged pork chop, black truffle, lobster, pasta, redfish, and much more. Book your reservation online tonight at Stroubes.com. And please make sure to let them know TigerBait sent you in. And look, head over there if you got a little group for a Christmas party. They've got a beautiful bar area. I'm telling you, the steaks are the best in town. And I'm looking at that cowboy ribeye like I do every time I put this thing up. And it's 1:20 in the morning, and I would absolutely hammer that right now. All right. Martine, in all seriousness, the two of you are the best of the LSU sites. The LSU fan base is lucky to have the two of you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Martine.
Andrew E., where is Mike going for brunch tomorrow? Yeah, well, wait, it's coming.
Do you do a Sunday morning brunch every week?
Well, here's the thing with the lady. Between LSU women's basketball on Friday night and this LSU game tonight, I think I'll owe her a nice brunch tomorrow. So, and then we'll get back in here and start reaching recruits. And we've got 3 sports worth of recruits to reach out to and see how their visits went. Look, here's the bottom line. Yeah, the game stunk, but the weather was overcast. But the game day atmosphere and everything that was going on today, the food, the hospitality, all those recruits had a great visit. It's just the game was not what you were looking for. Aaron, you guys just need a pony for a Michelin star chef, and then you should be winning. All right, let's see. Yeah. Open Bayou. The Saints are done. LSU has done good comfort food.
Oh, man. I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
I'll say this. At least LSU will be vying for like a ranked spot. Saints, it's almost like you want to lose because you want a better draft spot. That's so rough about the NFL.
TG01 comes in with a
Wow.
huge super chat, man. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate all the support, and that's very generous. Guys, do you think we have the best coach for this program? Thank you very much for your string. Thank you again. That's
Very
fantastic.
generous.
Thank you so much. Look, his track record speaks for itself. I know we got Driscoll in here and others, and they'll talk about big game Brian. I look around the SEC and I look at the top 3 or 4 teams, and I see teams that are all flawed. So I look at LSU, and before the season, I'm thinking 9-3 or 8-4. They open up with a bad loss to USC, and that loss is looking worse and worse. But then they come from behind and beat South Carolina. They had no business beating Ole Miss, but they did. And all of a sudden, you start, and the defense gives you some reasons to be excited. And you start thinking a little bit further ahead and thinking that this team might be ahead of schedule. And then you go to A&M, lay an egg in the second half. This happens. And it's honestly, look, you don't want to ever lose at home like that. I don't care how good Alabama is. You just don't lose at home 42-13. That is unacceptable, no matter what the reality is of an LSU football program. I'm sorry.
You're right.
But in reality, I thought this team again was 9-3 or 8-4, and they're going to finish right where I thought they were. Now we there's reasons, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. I think those coaches are getting the best out of what they're working with. I think the biggest issue, and even tonight, even when the offense is just not doing that defense any favors. And I think most of LSU's problems, frankly, right now are staying on defense. You've got to get an influx of players, which they're going to get, and I think they've got some fantastic coaches on that side of the ball. But offensively, that's so. In other words, you're taking 2 steps back. Your defense gets better, and now your offense gets worse. They've got to get the offense right now, and then you get a tougher schedule next year. So everything looks like 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. But can you sneak through because everybody else is having similar problems? Everybody else has to deal with the transfer portal. Everybody else in the league has players that are demanding playing time or think they're getting the raw deal or think they can go play somewhere else or they can get a lot more money somewhere else if they get in the portal. Lane Kiffin likes to lay it out, and he's absolutely true. You have a nice payday when you sign out of high school. Then you get to renegotiate if you do something special. Then you can transfer out and get another big payday. And then if you can be a fifth-year graduating senior, you can get another payday. That is college football right now. I was on a show in Alabama earlier this week, and I was asking those guys. I said, looking at the upper third of the SEC this year, how many of these teams in the upper third could hang with that 9-6 LSU Alabama teams in 2011?
I don't think there's a team in the SEC who beats either of those teams.
I think it's all watered down. I think everybody.
Sure.
There's no. I mean, you can go back that year. You can go back 10 years ago. You can go back 8 years ago, 7 years ago, however you want to go back. The best teams in the SEC are not the same caliber of the best SEC teams 5, 6, 7 years ago. And anytime, I think, decade, 15 years, I honestly believe that.
Can I just touch on this question he had real quick? Because here's my thoughts on whether BK is the best coach for the program. It's context driven, okay? Is he the best coach considering if you fire him as of January 1st, you have to pay him $56.9 million? That's a heavy weight. How does your program look financially after that? Is he the best coach given what your recruiting class look like right now? Well, right now, it looks like there's an opportunity for it to be among the best in school history, period. And that's saying something at a program like LSU. So are you really better off getting rid of him when he's, going 9-3, 8-4 in his first 3 seasons, which is just meh unspectacular, I'll put it. And then he's got this elite recruiting class. Are you better nuking that recruiting class and nuking the coaching staff? Given that, no, I think you are in the best position to give Brian Kelly a chance to bring in Bryce Underwood, Harlem Berry, all these guys, and see what he can do to develop those guys in the future. Is it moving as fast as you would want? No. But I do think that because of those factors, yes, he is the best coach for the program right now. We'll see how the next 2 and 3 years unfold as those factors change. Is he still recruiting at that level? Is his buyout goes down, frankly, and maybe that answer changes, but it's to be told. That's my best answer I can give on that. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, TGO won again, man. Thanks so much. That was very, very generous. S. Young with a super chat. Thank you as well. BK sucks, but Jay Johnson and Mulkey don't at least. Glad it's baseball and women's basketball season. Yeah, we were talking about that in pregame media up there. Like, when does this LSU women's basketball team play somebody that you really get that's really going to be a test? And certainly at home, it might be the end of January before you really see how good this LSU women's team actually is. Still have some concerns, I think, down low, but I really do like their guards.
Mike,
Jay Johnson's going to have a fantastic baseball team.
I'm about to say, which of those two teams are you more excited about this year?
I think Jay Johnson has the higher likelihood of playing for a national title.
Really? I've heard really good things about that women's basketball roster. It's really deep this year is what all the basketball junkies tell me.
She doesn't have the bigs. Angel Reese is absolutely a loss, but she needs to get everybody healthy.
Sure.
100%. All right, let's see. Yeah, women's basketball is rebuilding. Andrew E., it's watered down because you can't stack talent. Everyone can afford to buy a couple of players. Doesn't matter the program. Exactly.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I just think with what will be back next year, a class of 25 as strong as this class is, we'll see what Austin Thomas and those guys can do in the portal. Maybe you backdoor your way in next year and surprise some people and win a road game you're not supposed to. You certainly don't want to open up with a loss to Clemson. But do I see LSU as a playoff team next year? Right now, I don't see this team being better, markedly better than this team. I just think what you're losing, what you need to replace in the schedule, we'll see. But 2026 to me is the year where not only you better be a playoff team, but you better be a team that's a legit national championship caliber football team. Because if you're not, that's probably the end of the road. 2026 is probably the end of the road if you're not meeting that.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, what would that be? That'd be 4 seasons of just middle of the road or worse, 9-3, 8-4 teams, right? And then you can't put something together where you're at least in the conversation down the stretch. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's where conversations like that need to be held. Absolutely.
So if they're not a playoff team next year, that's a long time for fans to stew on it and marinate on it. And that doesn't mean that things around here are going to be very pleasant amongst the fan base while they wait. They're not patient.
Look, it at least shows signs of promise. Remember we were talking about young receivers showing those flashes? At least shows flashes of something being special. Show us the Fournette balling out. You know, let's have Harlem Berry pop off a game for 150, you know, or something like that, you know? Like show us like that there's hope that things are about to get righted, and then once they're righted, they stay righted, you know?
The mighty Tim, I just don't see how in the modern SEC that LSU ever be at the head of the table, especially if conference expansion continues, either an ACC or a Big 12 collapse. I disagree. You just have to have the right coaches and you need to have the typical run of Louisiana
Right.
being fertile and keeping those recruits home, and then going to Texas and Florida and Georgia and Mississippi and filling in with some extras.
Probably 2025, 2026 in Louisiana are stacked.
Louisiana is stacked the next two to three recruiting cycles. Next year in Louisiana is just as good as 25. And 27, you got 4 or 5 national caliber quarterbacks.
Yeah. In fact, there was a point where 2026 looked like it was going to be better with Jakeem Stewart in there. Now, of course, he's back. He's in the 2025 class, so that ship goes the other direction.
Let's see what we got here. And you want to ask about brunch tomorrow? Well, there it is. Yeah, LSU lost tonight, but let's go drown ourselves in some carbs. And nobody does it better than Capital City Grill. And, of course, they're with us each and every live show, and one of our partners, locally owned, 100 Lafayette Street, downtown Baton Rouge. Capital City Grill is your ideal lunch and dinner stop for your casual dining experience. Capital City Grill features a variety of sandwiches, burgers, seafood, pasta, steaks, and almost everything priced at $30 or below for an affordable experience. Don't forget to celebrate a Tigers win, or in this case, a loss, at their Sunday morning brunch from 11 to 2. And capitalcitygrill.net, you can look at the menu, and easy to park, great outside dining area when the weather's nice. And I'm telling you right now, I'll put it up on the screen. Let me show it to you. The chicken and waffles. You see that? That is the best chicken and waffles I've ever had. If you don't like all that syrup, tell them to put it on the side. But man, it incredible. They use Steen syrup. Of course, Louisiana Steen syrup, and the chicken on that is tender and juicy and not overcooked. I've had chicken and waffles at a lot of places. Nobody does it better than Capital City Grill.
Let me ask you this.
That's from 11 to 2 tomorrow.
Are you a psycho if you ordered the carrot cake for brunch?
I order the carrot cake to go.
Okay, just eat it later. Night. Yeah. Well, it is okay, but it has the warm melted cream cheese in store. That's the best.
The carrot cake, you know, the place in town with 3 letters, and they have the big knife in it. I'm not going to say it. Everybody goes ooh and ah, and it's dry as I'm not even going to say it, but it's dry. This stuff here is legit. The best carrot cake in town, I promise you. I'm a carrot cake fanatic.
All the Notre Dame fans are talking about all the food. I tell you what, if they ever come down here, they really should try some of this food.
They know. They don't have anything up in Indiana that compares to South Louisiana cuisine. All right. Let's see. Anything you want to add before we get out of here, Preston?
Nah, we'll be back Monday night, me and Zach doing our thing. So if y'all want to come in, I'd really appreciate y'all coming in and supporting that show as well. Hit like and subscribe on the channel. The support has been outstanding. So appreciate y'all. Mike, you'll be back Wednesday night, right?
Yeah, Wednesday night. We're not moving it. I don't think we have any conflicts. And so,
yeah,
I'm going to be real curious to see what BK has to say Monday. His post-game presser is up on our channel, as is Kalen DeBoer's. Preston went to the Alabama locker room, packed in there like sardines.
Oh, it was awful.
And so that's already up. Preston's post-game stories on TigerBait. Brian Lazar's instant analysis is up there. And as well as the full list of recruits that were on campus today. And we're going to be reaching out to them. Got a lot of replies already about how those visits went. We'll be rolling those out tomorrow. So go to tigerbait.com, subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, you can try us out for $1 and try us out for a week for $1. I think you'll enjoy the website and everything we offer. I'm on the message boards day and night, answering your questions and mingling there. And so, all right, guys, we'll have all that for you in the coming week. And so, thanks, Preston. Thanks for all the work you put in today. And thanks to all you that participated. And again, hit that like button, subscribe, notification bell if you enjoyed the show. And Preston will be back Monday night, and we'll have BK's Presser and much more right here on this YouTube channel all week long. So good on everybody. Y'all try to have a good rest of the weekend. If you see me at Capital City Grill tomorrow, come say hello. Good night.